We are here at Jester Studios. I'm very excited for this one, gentlemen. Full-Time Reds podcast. I'm your host, Kulu Lams. New segment. We're talking everything football, everything soccer. We are football lovers, Manchester United supporters. Although the two gentlemen here, they call me, they say I'm an imposter. I'm not a true. So Sihle says on the inside. He will say, what do you normally say? You say on the
Liverpool
inside.
on the inside, United on the outside. So.
I just want to put my watch on silent. Why do you say that? Why do you say
Yeah,
that?
because of your love. But maybe it's going to change. Klopp is gone. Yeah. So maybe now you'll be...
What he doesn't understand is that you can't praise Liverpool. You can't be a Liverpool lover.
And you can't praise them in
You can't
anything.
even praise them in
No,
anything.
but
They are
them.
our enemies.
Gents, I'm all about loving the game and admiring and giving credit where it's due.
Yeah, but not when it comes to your rivals. So that's what you don't understand.
Exactly.
A Real Madrid supporter will never praise Barcelona.
No, but us sitting here, we can accept and praise the fact that Klopp was a god. And what he has done at Liverpool was amazing.
He's won one Premier League in 9 years. So I don't know if that equates to a god.
Okay, we'll move on. You see, I don't want us to derail. Welcome to the Full-Time Reds podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give a big round of applause. I've got Abomtimande, Lihle and Sihle Gunene. Normally I want guests to introduce themselves, speak about their story, brief background, who they are. And yeah, I'd like to start off with you, Mr. Gunene.
Hey, guys.
The Gunene twins.
Yeah, so I'll just go first. I'm Lihle Gunene. Very happy and thrilled to be part of the inaugural episode of this segment of this podcast. Very excited and looking forward to it. And hopefully, we achieve many milestones together.
Yeah.
But yeah, like brief background, I'm a Manchester United supporter. Yeah. Been a Manchester United supporter for over 20 years. So it's been a tumultuous journey.
How did it start? How did if you still, I don't know if you still remember.
Yeah.
What was that one day or the one moment that said my blood is ready?
Maybe I'm going to be exposing my age a bit here, because remember when we used to have, Mnet, when you have ETV,
the decoder.
The decoder. Yeah. No, even we didn't have a decoder. You had to forge your way and actually play it maybe 5 o'clock in the evening. I don't know what it was called, private time.
Yeah. No, and that was like for an hour.
Prime time, for an hour.
It was from like 5 to 7
that was the initial introduction of the Premier League, or it was known as the Barclays Premier League at the time.
Yes.
So that's the introduction that we had of the Premier League, where we had an opportunity to watch Thierry Henry. That was our first
encounter. It was only the big games.
Yes, but in general, our father was a Manchester United supporter, so we kind of took it from there. So you can call it by fire, by force, but that was our early introduction.
So the only, and I could say the same with my uncle. Uncle Nu, he was United. So we were introduced into this, and it's funny how when you are supporting a team, you support it because you've got an uncle or a brother, or it becomes the culture.
Exactly.
Exactly. Now, which now it's controversial.
Low-key, it's indoctrination.
Yes. So, but yeah, anyway, thank you for that intro. Sihle, please, background. How did you I would assume it's a similar story, but please introduce yourself.
So my memory is slightly different. So how I got introduced to football, there were these cards that we used to get on chips or nails or I think Simba chips. That's what those cards were, with footballers in them.
I remember.
So they were like 3D cards. You would get Steven Gerrard.
Simba chips.
Yeah. So that's where we knew that, these are, and also it was on FIFA 98. A friend of ours, when we used to play FIFA, he used to, we used to play a lot with Man United those days, David Beckham, Dwight York.
Yeah.
So that's how we actually learned before even television came into either part. So it was actually 98, that year that we started.
So Man United, and I stand on the correction. What was it, the class of 92? Abo Beckham, Abo Nicky Butt, Gary Neville. When Sir Alex Ferguson started to introduce them into while building, revamping his squad.
Yes, but you know, just to give maybe a background on that, remember, Sir Alex Ferguson was employed by United in the late 80s, right?
86, I think.
86, right? So he had these old players that were like big figures in the football club. So
Old
the
players, who
idea,
are those
so when I say
Mark
old
Hughes,
players, like
okay.
your
Mark
Mark
Hughes was
Hughes,
there,
like
Brian
he had players who, some of them were good players, but he recognized that the Premier League, especially when the Premier League was incepted in 92,
Okay.
he thought, you know what, I need to change the dynamic and the look of the team and the culture because there was a bad culture,
Can I pause?
drinking
Sorry,
culture.
sorry.
Yeah.
You've said something and I love that we're already kicking off with the history of the club.
Yes.
So before in '92,
Yes.
that's when it started being called the Premier League.
The Premier League.
Yeah,
Then
because
prior
it was
to
called
that,
the-
what
it
was
called
it
the
called?
English League.
English League.
Okay,
the
break that
or
down
English
to us.
division.
English
That's what it
division,
used to
first
be called,
division.
first
Yeah, that's what it's called.
So the
before.
Premier League was never called.
Yes.
So Premier League, then Barclays,
Yes.
then now.
So,
back
so
to-
when
okay.
it was called the Premier League, the English Premier League, right? So obviously Barclays is a bank
Yes.
in the UK.
So it's a sponsorship
I think
thing.
your ABSAs are subsidiaries of it.
Yeah.
So what happened was, now it was called Barclays because that was the sponsor, right? But the Premier League started in 92. That was its inception, which was part of a rebranding because the Premier League understood that we don't want our league to be focused primarily on English players. But what we want is we want to globalize the
abroad,
sport.
yeah.
That's why the Premier League is the most popular. Because it's globalized. It's got foreign players. You know, they even started hiring a South African. There's a South African broadcaster. She's also now doing the Premier League. So they just want to show.
A South African broadcaster to.
Yes, she was at Supersport.
Okay.
But now she works for the Premier
What's
League.
her name? Oh,
I can't remember her name.
Okay, we'll put
I
it
can't
down
remember her name.
in the comment section. What's her name?
Yeah, they must tell us. They must
We
tell
will
us the
get. We
name.
don't have fact checker.
Yeah.
So,
she
guys,
does the Premier League
She
now.
does a good job as well,
Which she
yeah.
does a brilliant job. So
Maybe I
and
can
I
trust-
think Melissa Reddy is also,
is also
South African. And Melissa Reddy
She works
works
for
for
Sky
Sky
Sports.
Sports.
Okay.
She's also South African. So the whole point of the Premier League was to brand, to rebrand
Diversify,
and diversify because they understood that the power within the league is within the foreign players. But,
and apparently it's most watched in Africa.
yes.
No, it's
That's where-
Africa,
And
Asia,
Asia, yeah,
and
Asia
a
as
lot.
well.
And
Asia
also,
as
and
well.
also in America, it's quite.
Well, now
huge.
recently,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
before.
Before it was in Africa, yeah.
Okay, still sticking on to the history. Let's touch on the Sir. It's Matt Babsy.
Said Matt Busby.
Busby, sorry,
Yes.
Sir Matt Busby, and then the Babsy Babes.
Yes.
Can we please touch on that in terms of when did that era start, and then prior to that era as well with Sir Bobby Charlton. This is where I
Yes.
need to get correction.
Yes.
Did he play under Babsy?
Busby, yeah,
Yes.
Busby.
he did.
Yes.
So
play
that's
under
why
Sir
he was one of the
Matt.
great players under Babsy.
Yeah.
So you guys, in terms of your understanding of the Babsy Babes,
Mm.
which was before Sir Alex Ferguson,
Yes.
how did that come into inception? Like how?
So
did
I
it
think
got-
that it started. Matt took over, I think, around the late 50s.
Okay.
So he took over the team, and what he also wanted to basically change the identity of the team and only have young players.
Were they winning
So,
at those times? Was the football good? How was the
No,
brand?
United weren't really a title-winning team at that time. So, but what he did is he took teenagers, just more like what Ferguson did with David Beckham and these guys.
Yeah.
So he took teenagers. I think Duncan Edwards was his captain.
One of
He
the
was
best, actually,
18.
he's rated one of the best
One of the best
players
players
ever.
to
He
ever
can play for Manchester United.
Yeah. So he took those young guys and then he built a team with them and he started winning the the English Championship with them.
Yeah.
And then obviously
English Championship,
Yes.
not the Premier
not the
League.
Not the
Premier
Premier
League.
League.
And the
because that's
reason
in
why
the
it's very
50s.
important on us to touch on those things, it's because in our conversations, which I've learned a lot about the history of football, the history of the club, which I learned a lot from you guys, is putting context into understanding the rivalries between Manchester United and Liverpool. When then people say Liverpool don't have as much titles as we do, that it puts a lot of context in that. But sorry to interrupt you. Please carry on with the
So what happened then when he built this team, they started dominating the English league. And then Sir Matt said, no English team has won the Champions League. At that time, it was called the UEFA Cup.
Okay.
So he wanted to build a team that could compete and win the UEFA Cup.
Okay.
So, but then I think I can't remember if it's 62 or 64. Then there was the Munich air disaster.
I think February the 8th or
Yeah.
somewhere in February,
In
the
the
Munich air
60s.
disaster.
Yeah.
So then obviously the team was decimated because the players died. And that's where now Sir Bobby was one of the survivors of that team.
Sure.
You know, I want to add an interesting twist to that because there's something that I've learned about the relationship and the history behind Manchester United and Real Madrid linking to that disaster. Ne? So what happened was when that disaster happened, so Real Madrid were admirers of Semed Busby because Real Madrid tried to sign Semed Busby for Real Madrid to be the Real Madrid manager, and he said no. He said he's a Manchester United man.
Okay.
Right? He's a
What is his
Manchester United
nationality?
man.
He's
He's a
Scottish.
Scottish, yeah.
guy, okay.
So he's a Scottish guy. He's a Manchester United man. So what he said was, the relationship between Real Madrid, because Real Madrid admired the model that Semed Busby was using to say, you know what, we want to develop young players. So this thing of Manchester United saying, we want to have white players, we want to develop young players, it's something that doesn't start now. It's a tradition that has
And
been
that's why
there.
they even dubbed it the United
The
way.
United way.
All
That's why it's
United
called the
way
United
is
way.
And we've
playing-
always been known for
Yeah.
that. We've
So
always
he's
been
playing
known for
youngsters.
nurturing talent
Yeah.
throughout, even Sir Alex Ferguson. That's why I even mentioned the class of 92.
Correct.
But yeah, you were
so,
saying.
so just to quickly touch on that history. So now there was Alfredo Di Stefano, who was one of
Real Madrid's
the Real
best
Madrid's
ever
best
players.
players, was even offered to be loaned to Manchester United to try and assist United because United had lost their best players, Duncan Edwards,
Through
being
that
one of them,
disaster.
through that Munich disaster,
it?
because the only sole survivor of a football player was Bobby Charlton.
And the others, I think, that survived could not play anymore.
So Real Madrid tried to say, you know what, guys, we will actually give you Alfredo Di Stefano, and United rejected that offer, and they said no, they will rebuild from scratch.
And then I think a couple of years later, they won the European Cup.
Oh,
which is the
because
Champions League.
okay, so it was more of being opportunistic. I don't know. I'm not
it was
saying
more of
No.
I
It was a
think
genuine
at that time-
admiration.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
United was so good domestically in terms of they were dominating the league. However, when that happened, clubs had that that sympathy
that's-
that
okay.
like this is the worst because you can imagine a team
It's
full
like
of
you're losing
good
half your
players,
team.
So it
losing
was
half your
okay.
team.
Okay, I
So it
think
was
that's
for
very
them
that's very
trying to assist
insensitive
and
for me to say.
Yeah, so they were trying to help and say no, you can
Empathizing.
Di Stefano was one of their best players.
Yeah.
So it's like now someone saying you can have Cristiano.
Yeah.
Like so it was a big thing.
And then he was so it was an honorable thing to do. So now for them to actually go through that, they then must have felt Uti. How did they feel? That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do you guys think they felt when they saw Uti? Okay, these guys are actually going to build from scratch. How did like Madrid feel about that? How did the world football receive that? Obviously, you have to accept it, and there's nothing you can do.
It was an unprecedented disaster that nobody expected to happen. But it's not really how they felt. I mean, maybe they didn't even have time to think and process what was going on. Obviously, they had empathy towards Manchester United, but I mean, Manchester United is an entity and a brand that had to try and reestablish itself and pick itself up and change and start again, which happened because the most important thing is, yes, that disaster happened, but after that, they managed to build a team. And that's why Manchester United sometimes, people, you can't compare, which we will probably get to later. You can't compare it with teams that are built off finances and things like that. When we talk about history and tradition, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a heritage that a lot of these new football teams don't have, which we don't want to mention.
And not
No,
many
let's
clubs,
mention
and
them,
not many
'cause a lot of
clubs as
people-
well have people that have died for the club, like how United was.
Yeah, and you know what? We have to mention them because a lot of people think Manchester, with utmost respect, Manchester City is a big club. There are many other. We have these conversations all the time. Like West Ham is a bigger club than Manchester City. It's got more history than them. Yes, Manchester City is doing well and stuff, but they've won a treble. In my opinion, nobody cared.
Nobody cared. That's true.
And
Nobody
fine,
cared
you guys
besides
can
their
have me on
fans.
the comments. I'm waiting. Please have me on the comments.
Nobody cared besides their fans. You know, even if you can monitor their social media, right? When they parading their treble winning season, right? Manchester United can be doing something stupid like training at Carrington, whatever, and the
have more
numbers
views.
In
there
actual fact,
will be higher.
People cared more about how we were doing, how badly we were doing. We were still more relevant
how well
than them.
they are doing.
You know what I mean? And then the one I want to touch on is that, okay, so after the whole, just to stay on track, and I love the way we're moving, how's the performance when they were rebuilding? How did the performance how did they perform? Did they
Yeah.
win any titles?
So-
Was it
so-
slow?
so-
Did
so
they build up?
obviously
And I
they
want to
won.
lead this up now to the Sir Alex Ferguson era.
So obviously, I think is it 1966 where they
Yeah,
won because it coincided with Bobby Charlton was Manchester United captain when he won the European Cup, right? But I think he was also the England captain. He won the World Cup. So
No, he was. I don't think he was.
he was not captain, but it kind of coincided nicely because you had this Manchester United juggernaut of a player that basically led a resurgence of Manchester United. Because when you think about it, it's a disaster that, as I said, it's unprecedented. Nobody ever thought, how can we come out from such a situation?
Because I think they also played a game, I think 7 days later after the disaster.
Yes.
And they had to field like a makeshift team so that they can put out
So
and play a
it took
game.
some time to build. It
Yeah.
took
So
some.
it took some years.
Yeah.
But then because of the philosophy was built in within the academy, it was easier to build because at that time you can't just go and spend money and buy whoever player you want. You go
It
to
wasn't
the
as of a big market as it was.
yeah, you go to the academy and you find players because I think there was a story as well of how George Best was signed. There was Jimmy Murphy. So there's the academy players. When you are the best player there, you win the Jimmy Murphy Award. So the Jimmy Murphy was a guy that also worked with Semat Busby, and he found George Best and he said to Semat Busby, "Listen, I found you a genius." And that's the story of George Best, but that's another conversation.
That's another conversation.
So
'Cause-
that's what
Wow.
makes
Wow.
United special is because even I think since the 30s, we are the only team
That has actually fielded
an academy,
player
player on the
every
bench
season, yes,
every game.
every game.
Even
in the
now.
Premier League
Even now,
till
yeah.
That's
Till
a
this
crazy
day.
stat. To say since
Comment
the 19
section. Do you guys agree or disagree? I want to hear.
Since the 1930s, United has fielded, or in the bench, there's an academy graduate
Okay.
in a Premier League game.
So,
or
for
in an
example,
English
let's
game.
look at our examples right now, which is going to lead to the next question.
Yeah.
Who are the examples? If I can think of McTominay,
Yeah, he's an academy.
Right
academy
now,
graduate. Yeah.
Garnacho,
Garnacho.
Rashford. Yeah.
Because look,
Controversial one, Mason Greenwood, but obviously he's not playing for
Yes,
us right
yes,
now.
yes. But-
I
but-
want us
but-
to have a
but-
conversation on that
on
as
him,
well.
yeah.
But let's not derail from what we're talking.
topic, yeah.
We will touch on Mason Green. Okay, while we're still here, because I always have. This is one thing I always say with Mason Greenwood, with everything that's been said about him. We had many arguments when I was telling them when with the whole thing with the story with his girlfriend. I think now fiance.
Fiance,
Yes,
you know.
fiance now.
And people were saying he's finished. He's not gonna play football anymore. And I gave you
At a
guys a
high
call.
level. No, remember, he's still playing football, but where he's at now, he's at Marseille. Is it Man United? No.
But let's
so
see,
that's the thing.
nobody was still a Man United player.
Technically,
No, he
but
was
then in
loaned
terms
out.
of
Even
him-
now, there's still like a sell-on clause with him. We still
Yeah,
have
which a 50%
a
sell-on clause.
50%
But he's
sell-on
not,
clause.
that's not a high.
And
He's
that's-
not at a high level. That's
okay,
the,
but
that's the thing.
all right, so that we don't stick to this for long. The only thing I wanted to put on record is that this, if United really wanted to make it happen, because mainly the heat is only coming from the woman's side of things, and we will unpack it. We will unpack it even more, the Mason Greenwood story, which I feel we should do. But I don't think it's right now for this first episode. All I'm saying is he's still going to be a great player. He's made a mistake. And why I'm saying that is because of his age that allowed him to still... He's made a mistake. His age... Whereas if it was a Greenwood that did what he did at the age of 28 or 25, 26...
No,
you
there's
know,
time for
there's
him
still
to
time
redeem
to redeem himself. And I think, that's all I want to say. But we'll unpack it at a later stage.
Yeah.
Now we fast forward to Sir Alex Ferguson. We're still on the subject of performance of the players because we've moved on the performance of Sir
Matt Busby.
Matt Busby, yeah.
Sir Matt Busby, and one of the great players was Charlton.
Yeah, Bobby Charlton.
Bobby
yeah.
Charlton.
Yeah, I think he
What-
won.
what
just
is-
on that, he won the European Cup with United, which is the Champions League now.
Yeah.
He won the World Cup with England, which is the last time they won the World Cup.
Yeah.
And he won the Ballon d'Or. So
Charlton.
there's Charlton.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's one of the. I think there's two United players that have won the Ballon d'Or. So it's him and Cristiano.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about George Best.
I think George Best won the Ballon d'Or, yeah.
So
Yes,
there's
George
three
Best.
players that
So
won the
Charlton won
Ballon d'Or.
a Ballon d'Or?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So Bobby Charlton won the Ballon d'Or. He's right. I think George Best as well, because George Best was a flawed genius, as they called him, because he had a lot of issues off the pitch.
Okay.
he was a womanizer. And
But in
alcoholic.
terms of a footballer, one of the most
Because when you
gifted
watch,
footballers
actually, when you
ever
watch George Best, these mazy runs you see Messi
Yeah.
do, he was doing.
he was doing those type of
So
things.
the modern day, okay, I'm gonna name three players because I want it to be in order. The first player is let's stick on Charlton. Who's the modern day Charlton in your guys' thoughts? And
Wayne
I know
Rooney.
Rooney.
Wayne Rooney. So if we
because he was a number 10, Charlton.
Yeah.
but
And,
Charlton scorer
remember,
of note.
score of goals, but maker of goals as
Yeah.
well. Because
Wayne Rooney.
Charlton was the record holder of United's top goal scorer for United
Until Rooney broke it.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
For England and for Man United, Rooney did both.
Both, yeah.
So Rooney broke his record for United and his record for England that Harry Kane now
and then
broke.
at the age that he started with Charlton, what
Yeah,
was
he was a
also,
teenager.
No,
as
no,
well.
but
18 or
look,
so, yeah.
let's put some context. Even Rooney, through his own admission, says, you know what, I broke Charlton's record because I had the time to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Played long
because
for
because he
United.
played
Yeah, I
longer.
didn't go
Because
through the-
because
yeah.
Rooney said, you know what, I'm not a natural goal scorer like your Ruud van Nistelrooy. Those guys are natural instinct goal scorers. Harry Kane is a
Erling
natural
Haaland
goal
and
scorer.
all these guys.
But Wayne Rooney is a total footballer. This guy can play left back. He can play full back. He can play whatever position.
Wayne's new world.
Exactly. He can play
Conor
any position.
Abdul in the midfield at some point.
Obviously, at the latter stages of his career,
dropped
he
down,
dropped down to midfield. But the brilliance about players like Bobby Charlton, like Wayne Rooney, they are
total
talisman.
footballers,
When you
yeah.
talk about a talisman,
Okay.
a talisman is, in a moment of adversity.
This man loves, by the way, Rooney.
I'm a big Rooney fan, so I
but
can go
carry
on and on and on.
Carry
and
on.
on.
Yeah, carry on.
But the players that I love is that in the moment of adversity, they stand out to be counted on.
Okay.
And I feel, which we will talk about the current dispensation
Yes.
of our squad.
Yeah.
That's what we lack. We don't have an individual who can take the game by the scruff of its neck and actually make an impact and make a difference.
Bruno.
Yeah, he has an argument.
That's a fair shout.
We'll get there.
That's a
We'll
fair
get
shout.
there.
Yeah, that's a fair shout.
But all right. So Charlton, we've made comparison with him with Rooney touching on it. Then the other one, because you guys touched on Best, because we're giving history of the club. We're giving why we're Man United supporters. So that's the train of thought I'm following right now. And then we'll get to the present moment. Best.
Yeah.
Who's the modern day best right now?
So the modern day best, as I said, it's Wayne Rooney. That was okay.
So
I
Charlton,
don't know. Okay, I don't know if you mean who's the modern day best post Wayne Rooney, because Wayne
No.
Rooney's retired.
Okay, my line of question is along someone who's, because it's a different
Is it in
area.
terms of
I haven't
attributes?
I haven't seen him play. So in order for me to understand who if I wanna get a concept of what type of player he was,
would
what
say,
position he played.
I think he's more of a winger type of player. So he was more Ryan Giggs. Ryan Giggs is actually more
okay.
similar
Yeah,
to
okay.
what
Yeah,
George Best was
George
like.
Best, okay.
So it was this winger, tricky
Akashasa,
winger who
yeah.
like cuts in, and so I think more Ryan Giggs. I don't think now in the current
Yo,
squad
I
we
forgot
have-
about Ryan Giggs.
we have
Like guys,
someone like-
Ryan
yeah,
Giggs.
someone like
Ryan Giggs. And okay. You see, you're making me emotional. And then who else was the third player? Oh, that I wanted to add in, because I think he is made history and made a mark. Cantona.
Yeah. So the story with Cantona is when Ferguson took over in the 80s.
Yeah.
86. So he didn't do well, because I think I was seeing the tables. He was finishing like 15th and 12th. He was close to being sacked. And then he won the FA Cup in the 91, if I'm not
which kinda
mistaken,
saved
or
his
92,
job.
which saved his job.
Ironically, saved like 10 hard.
Exactly, yeah. So
that,
that saved him, because he won the FA Cup, because people were saying he must be sacked, because in the league we were bad.
Yeah.
But then he won the FA Cup, and then they gave him another chance. So when they gave him the other chance, I think the year after.
That is the class now of.
Yeah, no, before the class
class
of
of
the
90s.
first title, then he bought Cantona. I think the year after.
Yeah.
Then when he bought Cantona, because I think they were actually talking about Leeds wanted Brian Robson or someone like. Then United told him no chance. We're giving you Brian Robson. Then while I think it was Michael Edwards, the CEO at that time, said, well, "How about we take Cantona off your hands?"
Okay.
And then these guys said, "Yeah, okay, we want or 1.5, I'm not mistaken, million at that
Back
time.
then it was just like crazy amount of
Not
money.
really,
Crazy.
because he was. Remember, actually, people what they don't know is Cantona won the league with Leeds that year.
Okay.
The year before United won the league. So
Okay.
actually, he won back-to-back league titles with Leeds and Man United.
And let's not forget the controversial kick.
Yeah, but
Wait,
before we
okay.
get to the kick, so
Yeah.
what happens is he signs for United, and then this guy says they sign him for 1 million, and this guy says, let's just say you signed him for 1.2 to the media, so that the fans don't panic
go-
and
yeah.
don't say we
Okay.
sold him for cheap, because
Alright.
they wanted to get rid of him because obviously his character, he was also
United
like,
wanted to get rid of him.
no, Leeds wanted to get rid of him.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
because of his flawed, also genius,
Okay.
because he wasn't a character
So
that
at that-
any manager could handle. But Ferguson said, this guy it needs the right environment and he will thrive here. And
Who's
that's
the modern
exactly
day
what happened.
Cantona for you guys? Which I know,
like you
it's,
see-
I
you
know,
see,
I know
I-
there are certain players where it's
Look,
like to
I-
even compare.
Yes.
But for someone who doesn't not know who we're talking
No,
about,
but Lebs,
the
you know
closest
what?
thing to him.
Lebs, this is what I was alluding to earlier.
Yeah.
Right. I spoke about a talisman. Cristiano Ronaldo is a talisman.
Yeah.
Lionel Messi is a talisman.
Yeah.
Right. Those are people who can change a game at an instant. Like, we watched the World Cup final against Argentina. You saw what Kylian Mbappe
Yeah.
did. And you can't downplay that because there's only a few players who can actually take the game and actually make a change to say, okay, I'm deciding to go score now.
Yeah.
And you can't stop
So
me.
then let's say Cristiano then.
But here's the thing.
No,
I just think
he's
I just
better.
think
Cantona's better than Cristiano.
No, Cristiano
Cristiano's better.
Oh,
No. So the thing is, he's just a player that when the chips are down, he's the one that takes the game to the opposition and he can win the game for them. So I think there's
And the
I think-
style
I
of
think-
play was
I think let's be
different,
careful.
Yeah, he
Let's
was
be
the
careful.
number 10 as
Like,
well.
I don't want us to be slotted in the comments about downplaying how good Cantona is.
Yeah.
He was a phenomenal football player because he is a football player that, I mean, even you can ask Arsenal fans, he was scoring brilliant goals against them, any opposition. But my point is, at the crucial moments, right, that's when the big players step up, and he's that type of player that when it counts the most, the chips are down, it counts the most.
Okay.
Those are the players that stand up. So I would say a Roy Keane, for example. Some people might say, but he's not the most super talented midfielder. But it's not
But
about
influential.
that. It's his leadership,
Mentality
it's his
as well.
influence, and how he makes others around him better.
Influential. Last week I was watching when he kicked the time Alga Haaland.
Alfie Haaland, yeah.
And okay, because the question I wanted to find out is it true that he was the reason why Alfie's career started?
No, he had to retire.
He had to
actually.
retire after that kick.
Yeah, not after, but he tried to
just-
come back, but
yeah.
he wasn't the same player. Yeah,
So
no,
when,
because,
when we say I'm going to end your career,
no, because what happened there is when he injured Roy Keane,
yeah,
he said to Roy Keane, he must get up like he's
he's diving.
he's pretending
Yes,
or something
yes.
like that. And he got injured for months, for
And he
like a
took that
long
personal.
time. So he took it personal that I'm hurt and this guy is taunting me saying I'm faking it, and then he really
Anyway.
exerted revenge.
So yeah, thank you for that. I think that was beautiful. We've covered three figures who were
Who were
instrumental in terms of the clubs. There's more. I think there's more, but I think in terms of history, when you look at names that you can't, and there are many other names, obviously, which I think we'll unpack. But for the sake of this introductory episode, my next question: which players? Now we're talking current. We've gone through the past. In the present moment, which now our hearts are very heavy because Manchester United, which players do you believe are working for us, are not working for us? Before I talk on players, current state of the club right now, the season is about to start. When does it start? This next week.
Yeah. So we're recording this on Women's Day. Happy Women's Day.
We're happy Women's Day. San Boma. You know.
So look, I think
So current state of the club. What are your thoughts on now that the season is going to start?
Okay, so I'm not optimistic because I think the manager, like when you look at why Pep Guardiola is successful, he's got great players, but he's got a good game model. So he plays in a way that wins 90% of the games.
Yeah.
So we don't have that. I think Ten Hag's problem is his game model at the moment. He's got centre backs like Evans, Okay, Martinez is the only good one. Maguire, Lindelof.
Injury prone.
But the other injury prone, but the other two or the other three except Martinez, they like to play in a deep line, right? And he wants to press high. So at the moment he's pressing high with a deep back four. And then there's a gap in between. That's why we get so countered attacked so much.
In the
because
middle of
in
the
the middle of
park.
the park, there's gaping holes.
Yeah.
So that's why when you look at statistically last season, we conceded the most goals we've ever conceded in the Premier League.
Yeah.
We've scored the least goals we have ever scored because our game model is not right. Yeah, what he needs to do is we need to get more or better players. But I think the game model is what worries me the most. That's why we had an unsuccessful
Do we
season.
have the funds for new players? Because there's another element that, which I agree with you, but there's another part where it's also adding more issues, which I don't, and which for me frustrates me, which I don't understand how we got so many injuries right now already. Because I tell these guys,
season hasn't even
who's this player?
started. Euro.
So
Lenny Euro.
I'm already ruling out players. Basabambi
Sasuke Bandi.
Basabambi skipper. I've ruled him out. There's a lot of signings that I've ruled out. Because my issue this kid,
I want to touch before we come to the signings. I want to touch on what Usihle mentioned, right? He spoke about a game model, which is very important because when you're a manager, the first thing they ask you is what style of play would you like? And people, I think it's so saturated to ask such a question because people don't really understand what that means. But I like the word that the phrase that he chose or the word he chose when he said game model, right? In other words, how are you assembling this 11 to try and win the game?
Yeah.
Right? And Ten Hag, I can see what he's trying to do. And he alluded to that. He said, Ten Hag, what he tries to do is he wants to win games on a quick transition, right?
Yeah.
He wins the ball, he presses you high, he wins the ball high up the pitch, right? And then he tries and counter, it's like a quick counter attack, but it's a quick transition. That's what he's trying to do. That's why initially last season, when he bought Mason Mount, he wanted to have Bruno, Mason Mount, and have Casemiro, for example. That was his plan. Casemiro stays, Mason Mount, he plays the
like
2
two
8s
tens.
who are 2 10s, right? Which is a very attacking. So he found out very quickly that, hey, this thing is not working.
Because that first game against Wolves,
He
tried that.
for me,
problems because-
unnecessary and very complex. Unnecessary.
No, the thing is, I think Ten Hag has underestimated the Premier League in general because when you look at his signings, Anthony and these guys, like there's no way he thought he would spend that amount of money and these guys would work in the Premier League. I think, and I think it's also Pep Guardiola said the same when he came to England. He underestimated the importance of second balls. So in other words, when there's a second ball, you need to fight
Win
for
the
it.
second
Those
ball,
balls
because that
are
leads to
important.
goals. Yes.
He said first season he lost a lot of second balls. In his second season, when he won the league, he worked on that.
Okay.
So Ten Hag, what he needs is, even now, when we look at his signings, Joshua Zirkzee, he's buying players that we are
not
doubtful
proven.
they can make it in the Premier League.
Let's go before. Let's just take a step back. Who has he signed? Sancho didn't work.
No, okay, he didn't
Sancho
sign
was Ole
Sancho.
Gunnar
He didn't
Oh,
sign
Ole
Sancho.
Gunnar, sorry.
Yeah.
So let's go, let's rewind a bit in terms of the signings that he's made. And then let's see, when the ones that we agree on and the ones that we disagree on. Who was the first signing? For me,
Okay, he signed Lissandro Martinez. I think good signing. Last season injuries, but I think he's a good player.
and on the subject of injuries, I don't know what but I honestly feel that I'm blaming the department,
medical staff.
strength and conditioning.
No, I
department.
think for me it has to do with training because we signed a kid who's never had a 3-month injury
Yeah,
before.
exactly.
But he comes in and is injured for that.
Yes,
long. So
and not only him. There's
but-
more other players.
yeah.
We just had injuries out of nowhere.
We had a debate about this, right? And as far as I know, he broke his metatarsal, right?
Yeah.
So that's
And
not
that's-
an
okay,
injury.
that's in the game.
That's in the game.
that's in
And
the
that type of injury, it's
can't
like a
blame.
freak accident as well. So if you're breaking your foot, like it can happen. So I just feel like we are, for some reason,
it's like a
I'm a
bad
bad
luck,
injury.
yeah.
Okay,
we
so
don't
then let's
have.
go. No, guys, wait.
Okay, but
then let's
when
go.
you look at Mason
Martinez.
Mount, for example,
Yeah.
Mason Mount was injury ravaged the year he left Chelsea.
Yes. You
So
see,
that's,
a
an,
difference.
that's,
Thank
that's
you.
So that's signing an injury prone player.
Player.
Yes,
That's
and
different.
Mount
then
is
let me add
injury prone.
another one. Varane.
He's injury prone. so
Injury
that
prone
if he's
as
injured,
well.
you can't be surprised.
You can't be surprised.
And then let me add another one, Casemiro.
No,
Casemiro
was not
wasn't really
prone.
injured. He was suspended.
Yeah,
no,
he misses
was
a lot of
suspended
games
a
on
lot
suspension.
because of a lack of discipline. Because you see, he was flying around tackles last season.
Yeah, come on. And which is very embarrassing.
Yeah,
And
with him
let's
it's
talk
different.
about this Casemiro one, because you guys, this is one thing that annoys me. You guys, I said, okay, we had a conversation about Harry Kane, which I feel we can put context on. And you
Yes.
gave me the good context, you know. But what my argument was, Casemiro at the age that he is, where I like when we're having our conversations, you made a good example and you said, you know what? City has become now the blueprint of the type of football. If we say we want to win the league, we have to say, okay, who's doing best? City. What type of players are they signing? Here's the blueprint. I'm not saying let us follow the blueprint, but you have to take that blueprint and say, okay, from what they are offering and what they're giving us, what are we going to need in
Kulu,
order to compete with that? Squad depth,
But look,
the money that they have, and when we are signing a Casemiro and City have, and you guys, this is the
it's
things that
also-
you guys tell you. How do you justify signing a Casemiro when they've got a Rodri, when they've got someone before they had, Fernandinho, they
But
shipped
if
him
you
out.
remember, I think
Us signing Fernandinho,
but
and they're
our
shipping him out and
problem-
replacing him with Rodri.
But our issue is that we are signing players that are in their back end of their careers, that are like past their
Yeah,
prime.
but explain to me the justification of signing Casemiro
Okay,
and how
okay.
do you support
No,
them?
that was desperation. But listen, at that time you had a choice. We had a choice. It was Fred, McTominay, or Casemiro.
but no, you said
that was the choice. So,
But Fred, we should have rather kept him.
I would
let me-
rather kept Fred and brought in Amrabat. Yes,
guys,
that's what I would have done.
let me put context, right? So remember, in that summer we chased De Jong. We chased Frankie De Jong. That's the
thank you,
guy
thank you.
that Ten Hag
Yeah.
wanted to sign,
But
right?
then you don't go from
But
De Jong
then-
to Casemiro because the
But
profile is
then
not the same.
John Murta and Richard Arnold went to Barcelona. I don't know doing what, because are they on holiday? Are they trying to sign a player?
Yeah.
They went to Barcelona, tried to sign Frankie De Jong,
yeah.
right? Which I don't know. I don't understand why they were there, because Frankie De Jong told them from the start that he's not moving.
And this was after, this was the issue where, because I remember there was a COVID.
Because the fee, but
they
remember,
couldn't pay
they couldn't
Frankie.
pay his wages.
Frankie
Yes.
had that issue with
He
Barcelona
had that
of the
issue with
wages.
Barcelona to
With the
say
deferred
his
wages,
wages were deferred.
Yes.
But here's the point. The point is Richard Arnold, John Murta went to Barcelona.
Yeah.
They agreed a fee, I think it was in the region of 59, 57 million pounds.
Yeah.
They agreed a fee with Barcelona, or even more than that. Yeah, I think
No,
it was
no,
even
it was-
Who's
somewhere there, yeah.
Richard Arnold and John Burton?
So okay, so John Burton was the football director,
Okay.
right? And then Richard Arnold was the CEO, who have both departed, thankfully.
For United.
They've departed United because of the new structure, which is the INEOS, which I'm sure we will talk about.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but the background is we couldn't get Frankie De Jong, and because we couldn't get Frankie De Jong, which I thought would have been probably the best signing, because Frankie De Jong came later that season to Old Trafford.
Do you think he
with
would have
Barcelona.
survived in the
I
Premier
think he would
League?
have survived because
he's
he's like
press
he's
resistant.
like you know I don't know how to be slaughtered by saying this, but he's like a Kobe Mainoo as a football player, highly technically
And
gifted.
better even.
Of course, he's
yeah,
better,
he's in
but
his
I'm saying
prime now,
I'm saying
so-
Kobe Mainoo is a player that is like
Yeah, you're
Frankie
right,
De Jong,
actually.
because press resistant.
yeah.
What you want is someone who's playing that six, who's picking the ball from the center halves.
Yeah.
You want someone who can make the half
Decision-making,
turns.
yeah.
Who is press resistant, because you know the number 10s are pressing the six. You want to make sure he can receive the ball, he can open up space, and he can find passes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just think Casemiro was a panic buy. We should have not bought Casemiro.
And Casemiro
It
is
cost
a
too much
destroyer.
money.
He's not a six that
He's not a six.
likes to get. Who's another player the same profile with Frankie is like a Verratti.
Yeah.
So these are not the
Marco
tough
Verratti, yeah.
tacklers
Yeah.
like Casemiro is.
Yeah.
So
Two
turn out for
different
me,
players.
what he should have done is, I want De Jong. I can't get De Jong. Let me get a similar profile. Don't get someone that's totally different from what you were initially looking for.
But also one piece we're missing about Casemiro as well is that the panic buy, number one, and number two, it was when there was a lot of heat that the Glazers were getting, where the Glazers, we want the
we were
Glazers
losing
out.
games.
We were
Remember,
losing
we were
games, but
the
also
manager's under pressure.
Under
So
pressure.
they thought, let's just sign this guy and then
Yeah, but
you know?
all I'm trying to say is I feel Casemiro was a signing to make fans happy as well. let's get any big name, someone, because now we've just been doing a marketable signing, Sancho, who I called it from before he even got on that plane or even put ink on that contract, and I said this is not going to work, and I'll touch on that. I want us to touch on that as well. So my issue is that this culture of just make big signings, United is not making footballing decisions, and that is a big issue. Right now, what are your guys' thoughts on getting the new
The INEOS group.
INEOS group and the British guy? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Look,
And who are the INEOS group, by the way?
so INEOS Group, if I'm not mistaken, they own an oil. It's an oil
Chemical company,
Chemical
yeah.
company, yeah. So it's a chemical company, but they've got football clubs that they own as well. So, for example, the one in France is it Marseille?
Another sporting.
Which one is it in France that
portfolios? It's
they
Nice.
own? Nice, yeah. But other sporting portfolios, because who said Brands? Is it
Sergio.
the other guy?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Brailsford.
Brailsford. So they in cycling as well.
Yeah, cycling.
Yeah,
and
so they're in
Formula
other
One.
sports. They diversified.
Yeah.
But I just think, look, my only reservation about them is that they don't really have capital, because I feel like,
So why are you here?
Yeah, no. I just feel like they don't have the capital, because they were supposed to. Oh, the first thing for me, if I was owning Manchester United, is to try and get rid of the debt that the Glazers have gotten into the club, because that's going to allow you to have more access to your revenue. Instead of servicing debt, you can now invest it into the football
No,
club.
but then they only own 25%. So they're not going to clear debt for someone who owns.
That is true,
50%.
but that's why maybe other United fans
Wanted
preferred the
Qatar.
alternative
Yeah, because of
ownership,
that,
because
yeah.
they knew.
Because what happened to that
it's-
whole thing of oil money? We were getting oil money
No,
coming into
that bit,
Qatar.
the Glazers chose their two bits.
Yeah.
One was a full takeover from Qatar.
Yeah.
The other one was a 25%. But the problem is the Glazers still want to stay. They still want to remain in
How
power.
much did they offer
So
the oil?
They offered them
I think 2.5
2.5 billion, which was more than the value
or
of
close
the
And
to
to clear up
because
their debt
and
as
to
well.
clear out the debt
But
for
the
another
Glazers-
billion.
Yeah.
The Glazers said no.
The
They will
Glazers
take
wanted
Sergio.
6 billion. I
Yeah,
think no.
which was
I think
ridiculous.
he offered a bit more money than 2.5 billion. I think it was a straight over takeover with the 3
That
billion.
was a full-
I think it was a lot of money that he offered, but they said no. They want 5 billion, which I don't know what.
And
they
what's the
spoke.
valuation of the club at that point?
So it was like two
I think 2.5.
Yeah.
No, but to be fair, Chelsea went for about that much, about over 2 billion.
Yeah, but then
pounds.
the difference is, remember, this guy said, I'm buying you this from this amount, that 2 billion, but I'm clearing the debt.
Yeah.
So in other words, all your credits that you have done, I will pay for that.
Yeah.
That should count towards him purchasing the club.
Why do you think they
And
didn't take it?
This guy would have also renovated the stadium or built a new stadium outright.
Okay,
without
but
us
look, I
needing
think
further investment.
I think we digress. So your question was on, or
With
the
the,
discussion was the INEOS,
INEOS,
right?
yeah.
So okay, INEOS won the bid, obviously, or the Glazers opted to go with INEOS.
Yeah.
But INEOS, I think they're doing the right things, but my only reservation is, do they really have the capital and the financial muscle? Because now there's other things we need to consider. It's not just about having money. We can see Newcastle is a rich club, but they can't spend money because of this PSR thing that the Premier League has instituted, because they're trying to prevent clubs like Newcastle.
What's the PSR?
So that's a profitability and sustainability rules.
Okay.
Right. So it basically says, within a 3-year cycle, you need to have losses of a certain amount.
Is
and
there
not
another like
exceeding that.
clause on financial fair play?
Correct. It's an
Part of
extension.
financial
It's part of
financial
financial fair play.
Yeah.
So it's a very complex system, because you've got the PSR that the Premier League has instituted. You've
UEFA
got
has financial
UEFA
fair
has
play.
financial
Can we
fair
also
play.
please break down financial fair play for audience who don't? What is financial fair play? How does it work?
So financial fair play means that you cannot spend more than what you can earn, or you can only spend a certain percentage of that. So that now prevents clubs from being liquidated.
Okay.
Because then if you spend above your means, then
You're
you
not-
become
you're
in
not
trouble, or
sustained.
you
That's
can
why-
become insolvent.
And then in terms
So
of
it's
the
not
source of the
sustainable.
money, because in terms of me, the owner of the club, and my ability to inject money into the club, how does that work? So, for example, to my understanding, it's also to avoid that as well. And correct me if I'm wrong. So, for example, if I'm a billionaire and obviously the valuation of the club is X, the club needs money, we need to figure out how we can generate, because it's easy for clubs just to get a rich person and just to throw money
I
at.
want to
That's
take
a very,
that.
that's
I
a
wanna
very
take that.
gray
That's an interest-
area
that's-
because
you
of
get what
how
I'm
City
saying?
did that.
Yes,
because
and this
City
is
did that.
what they're going through
City
right
did
now.
exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
Because
cooking the books.
correct, but City, in other words, you're inflating sponsorship deals.
Because
right?
City will say you let's say you have your company, right?
Yeah.
You'll say your company maybe is Apple.
Yeah.
Right? You buy a club.
Yeah.
And then you change now the stadium
Yeah.
of that football team and call it the Apple Stadium, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you pay them way more than what any other stadium deal is worth.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
year. Or you put your Apple brand on their shirts and you pay them 500 million. You see, that's what City would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you see, that's very controversial. It's still under investigation. It's
So
still
it's a
under-
very
Yeah.
fine line. That
fine line.
because-
I don't want them to have us now. Okay, back to we've touched
The
on
INEOS.
We've explained.
Yeah, so look, talking about the INEOS group, like, look, I wasn't super excited.
Yeah.
But there's certain things we need to give them credit for, right?
Yeah.
You can see they're trying to change the culture at Manchester United. The problem with Manchester United is the culture, right? The culture of over promoting players.
Yep.
Players who think they're better than what they are.
Yep.
Right. I think that's the problem, and
And
giving them
I
them lucrative contracts
I love what
that
you-
they don't deserve.
Sorry, can I just say I love where you're leading us? Sorry, because the next part we're going to look at our current squad analysis. So I like where we're going right now. Sorry,
Yeah.
please carry
So
on.
they try to make a shift in the culture to say, you know what, we're not gonna be bent down and we have to pay you a crazy amounts of money. That's why Varane left, because I would have opted for Varane to stay.
But it wasn't too much
But
money.
even
Yeah,
if even
Madrid
if
Mahrez no kill.
Yeah,
They
it's
knew
not
they
kill.
were selling us
Even-
someone
even
who's
if-
injury prone,
Yes.
who's like made of glass.
No,
And
but-
he's-
but
and
that's why you need to do-
Madrid knocked us twice.
But you need to
Casemiro
do
and Varane.
due diligence when you make signings. So, and that's what I think I heard Ashley Young speak on TalkSport saying that what Ferguson did is he didn't only look at you as a player, but your character.
Yeah.
So Sancho, as we can see, his character is not good for Man United.
And I called it, and you were defending him the whole time.
You look at the ability. Does he have the ability to play
course.
for the club?
He
Yes.
does.
Does he have the character? No, he doesn't. Others have the character like Varane, but he doesn't.
What do we mean?
physically,
What
he's
do we mean
injury
by
prone.
character? Because people are gonna for the Central supporters, you know.
Look, I think that's
let's break down. What do you guys mean by character?
you see that's an interesting question, because
Wait, sorry. We're going to go on squad analysis. Go
Yes.
back to INEOS, then we're going to go back. And the squad analysis we're going to go through in terms of from the
Each players.
goalkeeper, from the defenders, from our midfielders, from our forwards. So I think that's the base way, and then to like also
Yeah.
close it off. So please touch on that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So let's wrap up the INEOS part. INEOS are doing the right things for the football club. As I said, my only thing is, do they have the capital to try and compete with the Manchester Cities and the Chelseas? Because Chelsea also is under heavy PSR stress in terms of they are on their heels, because that's why they're selling Conor Gallagher to Atletico Madrid for a huge amount of money, straight profit into the accounts. They're selling academy players, but they're not stopping buying players. They bought crazy amounts of players last season.
And the
two
contracts
windows,
were crazy.
with crazy contracts. But on top of that, they're still signing players. They're
Even
not.
now, yeah.
They're not taking time to take stock and say, guys, let's see what we can do with the current crop
They have like
of
6
players.
goalkeepers.
They've got 6 goalkeepers. You can see they're very irresponsible. And we off air we were talking about the American model. Off air we were chatting about that to say this is maybe why.
You're gonna run. You think the Premier League is
Yes.
what's
No,
the-
you know what Chelsea are trying to do. They're trying to do what City did with Julian Alvarez. What they want to do is buy all these players, these young players. Once they become world class, so they become very good
can
players,
sell them for
they
a
can
lot
flip
of
them
money.
for more money than what they bought them for.
But they're missing.
That's what they're trying to do.
missing,
But the problem is the length of the contracts are always a problem, because if you sign someone for an 8-year contract and it doesn't go well, you are stuck with that player for
there's
that
this-
amount of
but
time.
the missing piece, and you say this, you said to me, and you said, when on the subject of scouting players,
Yeah,
when you scout a player,
we were talking about character.
character, no, but yes, character, but also Usihle always tells me, he says, but for when you're scouting means there's a profile of a player. I'm a manager. I give you a profile of a player, and then from that profile, I say, I'm looking for a right wing. These are his attributes. These are his qualities. This is how I want him to fit into my style of play. This is how I want to use him. Go find them for me.
Yeah. So you don't
So
look at.
please just break that, how
So-
because I love the way
yeah.
you've explained
so,
it.
So basically, and I think that's where we went wrong, and what we are going wrong with Ten Hag right now is that Ten Hag is handpicking players.
Yeah.
Because he says, I want Amrabat, I want Anthony, because I worked with him. No, because what
it's just
what
the
we
Dutch
actually don't
national
read.
team now.
Here's another example of Anthony, right? Anthony, if you look at his profile, which player in our squad has his profile that was there before we signed Anthony? Amad Diallo.
Amad Diallo.
Because he's left-footed like Anthony.
And who's
he's got
the
a
guy that
low
went to
center
James-
of gravity.
Gravity.
He likes
Went to Leeds.
Yes.
Who James? Daniel
James,
James.
but
James, yeah.
No,
but he was
He's
he
there.
left
I told you
already.
guys. I said, and I told these guys. I said, Anthony is Daniel James that went to private. Yashtanya when I for you are man.
No, but listen.
But now, then I get phone calls. Then you guys calling me. Yes, Bafo Satolisa. Yeah, right. They say Daniel James that went to private school.
Yeah.
No, but you see, the problem is, Ten Hag said, I want Anthony, okay? If I'm the director of football or the sporting director, I'm like, okay, let's look at Anthony, right? So how much do Ajax want? They want 90 million euros. No, because his market value is not that.
Crazy. How do you
So-
justify
it's not-
90?
you can't
That's
justify
Ronaldo money.
So another thing is, okay, you're looking for this profile player. Don't handpick players. We have a player already in the squad that actually we loaned out that season when Anthony came, which was Amad Diallo. And Amad Diallo now is the starter for Ten Hag, not Anthony.
Especially in preseason, Amad Diallo
So that's where we and Ten Hag is going wrong. He's handpicking players to say, I want De Ligt. He wants De Ligt. He worked with De Ligt. I want De Jong. I want Xerxes. I want Mazraoui, the guy from Bayern Munich. These are players he's all worked with before. He's not
and even
telling-
Mason
And there's
Mount,
no
interesting.
scouting in
Even
there.
Mason Mount,
was loaned out to
That's
Dutch
not scouting.
team.
That's
not-
recruiting.
That's
You're
recruiting.
not scouting. Scouting
Exactly.
means I need, and it's not to say he can't have a profile. He can say, this is what I suggest. And then, but
And
at
also-
the end of the day, I can't send you guys out on a scouting mission.
No, but I think
because
No, but listen, the scouts apparently have done their jobs because the scouts recommended Kunku to us.
Rangnick, can we also touch on Rangnick?
Kunku, we had Alvarez was linked to us, offered the same price that City took him for. We passed on that. Moises Caicedo was
How much was it?
was offered for 8 million to us. Remember now, Brighton sold him to Chelsea for over 100 million.
Oh my
But these players were offered for peanuts because why? The scouts identified them.
Even the guy at Real Madrid, the French midfielder, he was also offered.
Camavinga was offered to us before.
Yes.
So,
And apparently
remember,
Diaz was
scouting
also
is
offered
good. The
as well.
problem is we
Yes.
don't close off these deals or we pass on them.
But they're not
That's the
difficult
thing.
deals.
They're not
Exactly.
difficult
They weren't,
deals.
and
they're
why I say
cheap
they weren't
deals.
difficult because these guys were
And
players
these- and
who
also-
were not known in world football.
and also remember-
and to wear the Man United badge at that time,
Exactly.
would have for them would have been like, wow, that's it. And look,
And also, if you remember, we had Jude Bellingham at Carrington at our training ground.
is it?
They couldn't
We
convince
had
him.
Erling Haaland. These
Erling
guys that
Haaland
came,
was there. They've
and
came
we
with
couldn't get the deals over the line.
So Rangnick, that's another part which I think can we please. Are you done with the onions?
Yeah, we're done with the INEOS.
Onions. Sorry, my brain is buzzing. Can we touch Rangnick? Then we're gonna go squad analysis, and then also current affairs. Then close it off. Rangnick, guys, a guy that was hired to be our football director, because why I think he's relevant right now is because we were talking about how United is run as a business. Now we are touching on the missing piece, the most important piece, if I can say, which is the football. What is going on the pitch? Because the business is influenced by the football. And a guy who was a director of football, who I don't even know who's our director of football right now, from
Dan Ashworth.
Dan Ashworth. I stand under correction. Rangnick was the guy who was a consultant, apparently.
Yeah. So he was so
yeah.
the story is that Rangnick was hired, right? So Rangnick, just a quick background about him. He managed a team in the second division in Germany. And I think it's is it Hoffenheim?
No, it's not Hoffenheim.
It's not Hoffenheim, but it's another German team he took, and it led it to 2 consecutive promotions. I think it was 2
He's
divisions
Austrian,
below.
in Austria.
No, in Germany.
Okay.
Ne?
But he's
He's
Austrian by
Austrian
Austria,
manager right now. But he took a team from like a second tier, right? And he took them to the Bundesliga, right? And he's also part
at
of
a
the Red
very
Bull
tiny budget.
at a very tiny budget, and it was also part of the Red Bull group. I don't know if it's Salzburg or
Yeah, it's Salzburg.
It's
Leipzig.
Salzburg
And
or
yeah,
Leipzig.
Leipzig.
But he also, is it both of them?
Yeah, he started at Salzburg,
then
and
we
then
went to
went
Leipzig.
yeah.
But he's basically a builder of football clubs. That's his specialty. So yes, he's a manager, but he's a builder of football clubs to actually ascend them to the higher leagues of football. That's what he's good at, right? Working with young players, developing young players, etc.
And he's good with
And also
scouting
he's
as
what we call the coach's coach.
Okay.
So he trains other coaches and tells them,
Tuchel.
Klopp,
yeah.
they learn from him, those guys,
They are
right?
disciples of
Disciples of Rangnick.
But he got a lot of heat when he arrived.
No, because we had players that were unteachable, as we can see now.
Yeah, he had to inherit that.
Yeah, and
that Scott McTominay and the
Fred midfield. And also, but what Ragnick said.
Can
he
I
said-
just say the one thing, and I know what you're gonna say now, which is very important to mention. But the one thing that for me was the biggest highlight when we had that whole McFred thing going on, when you said, Gimuti, Bafo, I don't care this Rangnick if he's the genie, because the genie press, he's the one.
Gegenpressing, yes.
I don't care if he's a god of football. I don't care
Yeah, but
if
not
he's
those
there.
guys.
But for as long as he's got McFred there,
Yeah.
he's
And,
not.
and he
you know,
failed.
and he
He failed
failed.
because
So, yeah.
it doesn't matter how brilliant you are as a coach. You need some players to work
And
with.
I know a lot of people. I had an interview on the Kululams podcast.
Yeah.
Keith is going to have you on that. So Keefe, yeah. But anyway,
So yeah, I think what I liked about Rangnick and what he said the club needs open heart surgery, and people really didn't
there's the
understand what he meant.
surgery of the heart.
So basically, he said we need to go to the core and root out the problems.
Rip
from
it
there.
apart and start it from
So
scratch.
don't put minor amendments and plaster over what's wrong. Firstly, he said stop buying players that are playing for their last contract, and that's where we had that Hurricane argument. That I say I don't want Hurricane as good as he is. He's on his last contract. He's 30 years old.
What's the issue with that?
right?
With getting players?
Because those players are not hungry as a player who's still in his young career.
Okay.
Who want, like a Julian Alvarez, like a Erling
So
Haaland.
is it an age thing or is it a financial thing?
So
Both.
Yeah, it's both. Yes, you
Because
can
if a
buy.
player is young and he's on his last contract,
No, but he can't be young and
he can't be
unless
young
you sign
and be
for
on his-
Chelsea. But
Because that's
when
if
you're a
you're
young
8 years,
player,
it's in your last
you're signing
contract.
4 years, right? So you're 23, you sign 4 years, you're 27. By the time you're hitting 30, what you want is you want to go to a football club that's going to pay you the most money because
it's
you
your last big
understand
contract.
your career is almost finished.
so give us an example. You're about to touch on Julian, which is now currently the signing that because Julian's going to
Atletico Madrid,
Atletico. Please break that. So for him, was he on his last contract?
No,
No.
Okay.
So essentially, what we're saying is, you get a player that's hungry, right? That hasn't won much. So sometimes when you sign a Casemiro, he's got 5 Champions Leagues, he's got La Ligas.
So my argument, so you're contradicting yourself.
What motivation does he want? Does he need to play for Man United? Yeah, he'll say, "Yeah, I'm playing in the Premier League. I
wants
never
to win the
played
Premier
there.
League
I want
title."
to play." But at the same time, is he as hungry as
just
someone
bragging rights.
like what Madrid are doing? Madrid buy young players. Jude Bellingham is 2021. They have Vinicius is 23. They have Mbappe still young, 25. They not buy. United would buy Mbappe 5 years from now. That's the problem. You buy Mbappe still in the peak of his powers. They bought Cristiano at 24. So that's what Ragni said. Stop buying older players. Buy players in there while they are still hungry for success. Not players that are like Sanchez.
And then that
Is another example.
And then that, hey, you said, the piano guy. Tell us about Sanchez because that was not your tone when Sanchez was signed.
No, of course you're excited. Listen, when you buy
My
Falcao,
phone was
Di
ringing. I was
Maria,
getting
and all
video
these
calls.
guys.
Bafo, bonile Bafo, I piano Bafo.
Yeah. We're excited, but at the end of the day, what's
And
important
let's not forget
is,
what's his name.
Martial. No, look.
We've had embarrassments at
Look,
United.
before we
we
talk
have.
about
Yeah.
the squad, before we talk about the squad, right? Just to wrap up on Rangnick, I mean, even Cristiano Ronaldo
Said
released
this
an
guy is not
interview
even a
and he said this guy's not the coach.
Yeah.
And I just felt like at that time, Cristiano Ronaldo is a senior figure at Manchester United. He's a legend of the football club. So if he's got that mentality and that attitude towards Rangnick, it's going to resonate with the entire group of players. So they're not going to be on
So
board.
are you guys saying it was uncalled for that interview? Or was it the approach? What is your issue with it?
no, the thing is, when someone is put in a position of authority, it's not your job as the player to always to question, because this guy, remember, he was an interim coach. He wasn't there for
the
long
long
term.
term,
His long-term goal there was
to be a consultant and consult with the
and
club.
also steer the club in the right direction. So the players would needed to be told that. So, or maybe they were told, and that was the problem, that this guy is not a coach, he's the
temporal.
builder of clubs.
Okay.
And they had that mentality.
Yeah,
that,
but
he's not
that
a
was
coach.
known from the beginning. He even came through when he came to the club and said, I'm just an interim manager to clean up the mess, and then I'll be a consultant for the next 2 years. That was clear from the beginning.
But I
so
think
then what was the issue?
But the issue is when you look at the current crop of players, or especially the players that we had under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which I think, Ole had a very, his team, I would say it was mixed. He had good players, but it was based on individual performances, right?
Individual brilliance.
And individual brilliance. So Ole's issue was that he was just a motivator. That's why that's not
He was
sustainable.
never supposed to be the manager in the first. It was
Correct.
just that
No,
he had a good
it was
run.
fine as an interim, but not
As an
long
interim,
term.
because
you
he's a
called it
vibes
and you're
manager.
like,
I said from
guys.
the beginning that this guy won't work long term
won't
because
work
Shut him
long
up.
term.
I shut up. Well,
So Rangnick, to be fair, he did what he could. The criticism, yes, is warranted because the performance was shocking. But I just feel like the players were not on board from the start.
Yep.
So he was kind of sabotaged, right? The players already given up and they gave up tools. Even under Ole, even under Mourinho. We can even
it's
go back to
something they've
Mourinho.
done before.
It's an
Even
attitude
under
that is very consistent.
Van Gaal.
Even Van
These
Gaal,
players,
they down
they
tools.
down tools.
Yeah.
Right?
Because these players, ask yourself this question. These guys can go into an FA Cup final and beat Man City, but
And they
go and
deserve to win.
lose to the team that's bottom of the log and lose convincingly. How does that happen?
Yeah.
those, we'll unpack that one. But I think we're good. Can we go to current squad analysis now? I would like to start from goalkeeper. Defenders, midfielders, forwards, and just briefly to touch on what you would what's your preferred squad from what we have, from what we've signed, who actually your fantasy team, your ideal team that you guys would see. Let's start with the goalkeepers.
Yep.
I can start off personally. I don't think Onana is the guy for that.
But you can't change him.
Yeah, Onana, like,
And I called
he's
him
here
out
to
from the
stay.
moment that he
And
was
no,
But
the
you
thing
can't
is,
change him.
Onana,
Why can't we change him?
Because he cost a lot of money.
But for me-
he's still under contract. You can't have two number one goalkeepers.
No, but I called it out before he was signed.
No,
you can't do
but
that.
listen, the problem with Onana is that who is he playing next to or who is ahead of him? I think for me that will determine the goalkeeper that he is. If you put first of all, okay, let me say it this way. He's not a shot stopper like David De Gea. He's not the best at and we didn't buy him for that.
But that was
to be fair.
known.
Yeah.
What
No,
were
no,
we
no.
buying him for?
What he needs is Ten Hag should have got ball playing centre backs, 4 of them, not 2. And then when the other 2 are injured, he's
You're playing the old
with the
style.
old style. No,
Yeah, no.
he needs players that he can trust. That when he passes the ball, they can handle it
But
and
guys,
they can progress
you see,
the
that's
team.
the problem.
So-
you don't sign. This is the first things first. Then maybe and this is my annoyance. Yeah, let's get Onana because Onana. It's the same argument we'll get to the fullbacks, but let's stick to a goalkeeper. Yeah, let's get Onana because he's good. He's a modern day goalkeeper.
But he is a modern-day goalkeeper.
because he can play out from the back.
Yes.
I'm not impressed by that. Once you're
important.
wait. Let me
spoke
make my
about game model earlier, right? Ten Hag can never
let me make
get his
my
game
point.
model with
let me
David
make
De
my
Gea.
point.
It's a
Let me
fact.
make my point. Game model, okay or not? De Gea, what's the main priority of a goalkeeper? To make sure that you are stopping
Shots,
you are
of course.
stopping.
That's the
main
primary
priority.
responsibility.
And that's what I'm saying. We can't derail from your primary role and your primary responsibility. That's all I'm saying. Are you doing that? I can work around the fact that you can't play out. It's something that's
No,
not.
you can't work around
and
that. In the
let me
modern
tell you why.
game,
No,
you
we
can't.
can.
Unless-
Let me
okay,
tell you
then
why.
you need to kick out the ball then.
Well, that's why Onana right now is just shocking, and you guys would agree with me.
Can I
Let me
make-
just finish my
Okay.
point, and I'll give you guys the platform to express in terms of a goalkeeper. De Gea, even right now, he saved us from a lot of times where we were losing the league. Where at many times the season, where we were like, if it was not for De Gea made Ole Gunnar, a lot of managers make, especially Ole, he made him look good. He made him wear a season where we should have been like 4th or 5th, but he saved us so many games, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5. He's a guy which I feel was not appreciated, and even right now the club is even considering of bringing him back. Am I correct?
No, he's gone
he's
to
gone to-
Fiorentina.
To Fiorentina,
yeah.
but they were considering because for a very long time for the wages and stuff. So all I am saying is, us getting rid of the Enengasho, I said Nizozona. And now you guys are giving me the phone calls, you're telling me yes, Bafo, yes, Onana is crap. And I said, no, it's fine. I called it out from the beginning. I said, you mark my words, you will miss De Gea. And are we not missing De Gea? Yes, that's all I have to
but
say.
we also need to look forward.
So stop this thing
Okay,
off.
wait,
We need a
wait,
shop
wait.
stopper,
I just
shot
feel,
stopper.
No. I just
Nonsense
feel,
for me.
look. I think Onana is not a terrible goalkeeper, right? I just feel like there's certain issues we
terrible.
have, and I'm gonna come to that. Yes, he's very unorthodox. Even the way he saves the ball, it's weird. It
Onana
looks weird.
Ushawa near post.
But
Near
what I'm going to
post.
say is,
come
Onana
on.
last season, the amount of shots that he faced were ridiculous.
and that's the game
that's
model problem.
unacceptable. You can't have a goalkeeper, right? I think
was
in the
facing
season
20
as a
shots a
whole,
game. No.
20 shots a game. He's faced probably
I don't-
200 shots.
Yeah, no, but
That's
my
unheard
issue
of.
is De Gea faced the same thing.
No, not
let
that-
me
not
tell
that
you, wait.
amount. No.
De Gea
Not
had
that amount.
Maguire in front of him.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
because
and
the
then
players
people,
different.
No,
Maguire,
listen, and then people would blame De Gea for certain goals that were scored when Maguire wouldn't do his job.
Give Maguire hospital passes.
yes.
But that's what I'm saying, to say he's faced the same situation.
Yeah,
So-
but his job was just to kick it long because we all
exactly.
knew that he
He's
can't
got
make the short
limitations.
passes.
Yeah, he's
so
got limitations.
Onana's job is harder because he's got Maguire and Lindelof, and he needs to
But
ask
De
them to
Gea
play
had
from
that,
the back.
and he did- and he could
no,
still make
but he
sure
was
that-
kicking long. Now the game model says build from the back.
Exactly.
So that's why
With Maguire.
we need
Not build
centre
from the
backs
back.
that need to
No
build.
Maguire.
No Maguire. You can't build him from the back. No Maguire.
But
because
apparently
he's too slow.
Maguire was
Nah,
one of
we
the
were
greatest
sold a lie.
passers.
He's not a
He's
great
from
passer.
Leicester. Wow, he's good on his feet.
Nah, he's
wow.
not good on his
You know what? We're talking about the goalkeeper, right? So
Yes.
Onana, there's nothing we can do, right? For me,
So we
What-
stuck
what-
with him.
what-
Yeah,
what-
we
So
we
are
stuck
you
with
guys
him.
saying we can't sign
we can't
anyone?
sign
Why?
anybody, and
Because we
also
don't
we've
have
got
the money
we've got
to do that.
besides it's we
And he
don't
signed
have
for 50 million. He's
That's
not,
what I'm
this is
saying.
not a 10 million pound goalkeeper.
we don't have the
And
So
De
we
cap-
Gea
can't-
came from the academy, right?
no,
he was signed from
bought him
Atletico Madrid.
yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't have the capital for goalkeepers. That was addressed last season, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issues we have for me is centre half, right? We've got Johnny Evans, who's for to ask if he's 60, 80 however he is,
And he did well
He
last
did
season.
well. I think he did well. But
So
we
we
have a
move on
problem
to
there. We're
defenders
moving
now
on to
once-
defenders
okay.
now. So we have a problem with we've got Yoro, it's a good signing, right? Young, talented,
Have you seen him
up
play?
and coming. Yes, I've seen him play.
In the preseason,
right? In the
I think he's
preseason
decent.
game,
Ah,
he
don't
was
tell me
phenomenal.
about preseason games.
No,
but anyway.
Okay, fine. Look, I'm not saying I'm not getting gassed because they're gonna like you United fans. You like getting gassed. Look, he's a good player, he's a good signing, and those are the
Based
type
on
of signings.
preseason games.
That's
No,
that's
I think he'll
Daniel
do well.
James was Cristiano
no.
Ronaldo.
But
No,
wait,
preseason games.
wait. So I'm saying it looks like we're gonna pass out on Delict. I'm not a Delict fan
I'm a big Delict
because
fan.
Paul Scholes on what is that? The
Overlap.
channel? On the overlap. Paul Scholes said, the issue with us signing these players that are on the bench for the other team. Remember, Delict is on.
but
Wait,
listen, context,
Eric
context,
Dyer
no,
is
because,
playing ahead
because
of
Tuchel
of-
likes Dyer more
No,
than. And
but
as,
Dyer
as
is playing
you are a
ahead of
coach,
De Ligt. Why should I wanna
Would
sell
you
De
play
Ligt?
Dyer over De Ligt?
I don't know. I don't know what
that's
this.
insane.
I don't know what this.
Tuchel,
this
I don't
hype
know
is.
what he was
yeah,
doing
because
there.
but for
No.
some reason, Dyer was loved by Mourinho. I don't
Yeah,
understand it why.
and
it
Mourinho
cost him-
loves McTominay.
And it cost
What does
him.
that say? So we can't go off by them. But
No,
McTominay-
okay, but the
So
point of the
no,
matter
I would
is,
never play.
I'd never.
Dyer over. De
I
Ligt. I'm
personally
sorry.
feel
No.
for me, Dyer is a championship player. Is a second division or a West Ham player. For me, I don't see the hype around him.
Look,
I don't
look,
see why. I think he's slow.
I think, guys-
I think he doesn't suit the modern day game, and I think De Ligt is the better one that I would have.
But
I would
guys,
have-
better
guys,
defender.
you
and
see,
under
what-
these
what-
circumstances,
what-
actually
what-
would have considered signing him.
I
And
if
also,
the
let's
money is
look
right.
at the price. If
the
the
money is
Bayern won
right.
42 million pounds, that's not a lot of money. This guy is 24.
Is he injury prone?
No, he's not.
And I think under these circumstances,
He's not. When you have Johnny Evans,
look, I don't have a
Lindelof,
problem.
Yeah.
beggars can't be choosers.
No. I don't have a problem with the signing of Delict. Ne? All I'm saying is I don't think he's a massive upgrade compared to.
But
and
who
I'm
are
going to tell
you
you
gonna
why.
get?
He's an upgrade.
No.
Compared
He's an
to
upgrade to
Maguire
Maguire
and
Lindelof, of course.
He's a
but,
massive
but my
upgrade.
point is no.
No.
But my point is he an upgrade to if we had, for example, I don't think he's a better defender than Varane when Varane is
Yeah,
fit.
but he's
the only
injury
difference,
prone.
correct?
Nah,
but
I
he's
think
not.
that's the same level.
I-
It's not.
that's
No,
disrespect.
this was not
That's
Varane.
disrespect.
No, this is not
Even
Varane.
Varane last
or Real
season,
Madrid.
it doesn't matter.
Nah.
Delict is not that good.
Look,
and that's the
for
thing.
me, the only signing of De Ligt to just call out the centre back issue
Which
is the
I
fact
agree
that
with.
it's under our circumstances,
listen, we-
under
because
the
of last
type of
season.
players we,
We
can
need to-
attract, and the fact
Yeah,
that we've got
exactly.
2 centre backs who are better than him, I agree, over Varane and Martinez, but they're unreliable.
No,
Okay,
so
and
if
Varane
you
is
want
gone
to-
anyway.
so you need
but,
Yeah,
but,
you need
but no,
Delect.
we need Delect. Look, I think
And the
Ten
money
Hag's-
is
you know, when
reasonable.
we talk about this team, Ten Hag's plan it was Onana in goal. It was going to be Delect on the right side of centre half,
and
and then Martinez. Then Euro was going to feature. Obviously, Euro is expensive, so he's there, right? And then the fullback positions are a concern for me because yes, we've got Dalo, who's there as a
back.
permanent
But he's
feature,
improved.
right?
He's
improved
improved.
massively.
Wow, he's
Player of the
improved.
season last year.
Yep,
Very
he's
good
improved.
season. But the left side worries me.
Shaw is injured. He actually injured.
I don't know
again.
where he's
And he's not
where
going
he's
to
at.
play in the Community Shield.
Look Shaw.
He's only
Malacia,
fit for England.
I don't even know how
Malacia
we
has been
got
injured
it.
for 14 months, and no one is saying
no one
what's wrong
says
with this
anything.
guy.
We don't have an explanation what's wrong with him. No
But he's
social
not
media,
even good
yeah,
enough.
He's
no,
not
but
good enough.
listen, he's there. He's being paid to do a job.
Yeah,
and
but he's not good. Okay,
showing up.
so who's our left back? One
We don't
Bissaka?
have a left back.
No, Wan
because-
Bissaka is right back.
Oh, yeah.
So
and
we've
Wan
got
Bissaka might leave.
yeah, but he also wants to be
Has he
paid off.
signed
Apparently.
anybody to Ten Hag for a left back?
No, we don't have the money. That's the problem.
No.
So
the
we
only
still need
person
to figure out a left back. Who would you
Yes.
guys consider?
No, he's
Aslan
gonna. He
and
wants, that's
Trippier
why
was-
this guy he wants to
that
sign
guy.
this
Trippier.
Mazraoui guy.
Mazraoui guy from Bayern.
That he's coached
Is he a
at
good
Ajax
player?
before.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah,
watched him
but
much.
why are you getting Ajax and Dutch? So
You
if it's
see,
not
but-
Ajax, it must be Dutch. Ten Hag, come on, man. Like, that's ridiculous.
But that's
so
what
for
I
me, a
said.
left
He
back,
doesn't look at the profile. He looks at
which
the
left
pla-
back
the
would you guys
player.
consider for him under circumstances, under costs? I think
I would promote. I think sometimes, like you look at what happened with Kobe Mainoo, we bought Casemiro or we buy these expensive players when in-house we have someone who can do a better job. I think you need to be brave. Scholes, these players, if Ferguson never gave them a chance, we would have never known what have been made with them. So for me, left back, we don't have money. Don't buy second-rate left backs. Get promoted. There's a guy who's been playing preseason from the academy. Try him.
fair enough.
And
Let's go to
keep Shaw for a
midfield.
year.
I'm just conscious of time now.
yeah.
Midfielders, who do we have? We've got Mason.
that's shocking.
We've got okay. Let's start off with we've got Umeino, which I think is doing well,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's going to be sustainable enough for us
No,
to
we can't
say
play all the
we
games.
want
That's
to.
the thing. But
yeah.
for me, I think the question I would put is, where does Mason Mount fit? Because we obviously have Bruno Fernandes who plays every game, no matter what.
You know what?
where,
Mason
where
Mount
does
is
Mason
irrelevant.
Mount fit?
He's irrelevant.
How is, you see, that's
He
why
was
we're in
never
this,
supposed to be
but
signed
that's
in
why
the
we're in
first
this
place.
financial position. He spent 60 million on Mason Mount, so you can't say he's irrelevant, right? You can't spend 60
No, why was he
No.
targeted in the first place? That's my
that-
issue.
But that's Ten Hag because he bought Mason Mount and Ten Hag misprofiles
sackable
players.
offense.
He misprofiles him because he bought Mason Mount and he wants to play him as an 8. He's not an 8. He's a 10.
No, but I've
He buys
I've
Christian
touched-
Eriksen. He wants to play him as an 8. He's not an 8. He's a 10. So why is he misprofiling players or
No,
trying to make them
it's
what they're not?
He wants midfielders, right? He wants to have a once. You know what? When you look at how City plays, which we're not City, by the way, but what he's looking to do is you look at Guardiola, he plays Rodri, then he's got Foden, De Bruyne, maybe who's on the other side.
we're not good
he
enough to
plays,
keep the
but
ball
that's the
there.
point. My point is he wants to employ that type of football where he's got a sitting player and then he's got number 10s in front, which you're correct. It only works when you're a possession-based team.
You have to keep
right?
the ball.
So that's the idea. So we've got Mason Mount, who doesn't have a home. Because even this season, it's
Why
questionable.
is he even a
No, he
United
doesn't have-
player?
Exactly, it's
Nah,
questionable.
and he
on
gave him
top of
number
that,
7.
He gave him number 7, and he's 60
It was a
million
marketing
pounds. It's a lot
signing.
of money.
But he's not even marketable.
Right?
No
He's
one
English.
cares.
So my
no one
point-
cares. Why is even irrelevant? That's my
Yeah.
issue.
Look, my point is we need Kobe Mainoo is a main feature in the team.
Yeah.
That's
Casemiro,
undoubtable.
done.
So we've got Kobe Mainoo, we've got Bruno. What we need is a holding midfielder. That's why we were going for Ugarte, right?
Okay.
From PSG.
From
yeah.
PSG. But that looks like it's not happening because
Then we
that's the
have
perfect
Amrabat.
mixture. No, Amrabat
Amrabat
is gone.
gone, and-
Oh, he was
He's on
just
a free.
loaned.
But he's waiting
He's
for
waiting. Usman. He's waiting to be signed
And then Ten
again.
Hag must not be stupid and go and say, "Hi, I'm Rabat
I think Amrabat will happen because we don't have money. And the deal with Fiorentina was that we take him on loan for 8
Oh my
million,
goodness.
and then we pay another 8 million if we take him permanent.
Amrabat is a
I think-
liability.
I
He's a
see that-
liability. He's not Manchester United
Amrabat.
quality. I'm
and
sorry.
you know what's sad, ne? We had an issue with McFred. and we got Amrabat. I would have rather than kept McFred. Fred is better than Amrabat.
Yeah, Fred is better.
No,
I would have rather kept
I
Fred.
think Usihle touched on this when he spoke about the underestimation of the Premier League. Because when you look at how the Premier, I was watching a show with Michael Owen and who's this guy from TalkSport? Simon Jordan, right? So he was saying, to be a Premier League player now does not require so much talent, but it's more athleticism. So when you look at players like Amrabat, he's not a bad player, but what you need, you want guys that are very athletic.
And
Because sometimes you cannot be a super athletic. Like your David Silva was not an athletic player, but he was super talented in terms of his technical ability.
Like Juan
Yeah,
Mata.
but
Like Juan Mata.
you
So
see,
athletic
and
players.
the thing is, putting Amrabat, and I'm not saying that's what you guys are saying, just to put Amrabat, David Silva in the same sentence.
No. I'm just it's
No, I hear the
disrespectful.
point that
But
you're
the
saying.
point
yeah.
I'm making is
and he was
it's the
athletics.
requirements in the Premier League are different.
I would need to break down athleticism, but obviously right now for the sake of time. So midfield, we've got problems there. We need to figure out, and I think
We need to
can
sign at least
Yeah,
one
sign. We'll unpack it in the next episode. Striker.
So with strikers, I just think we
signed
have
a
problem.
striker,
We signed a
so
striker, but
Joshua
we've got
Højlund,
Højlund who's injured.
We're still trying to replace Cristiano Ronaldo. That's how bad things
But
are.
Højlund is injured, right?
Martial's
So
gone.
the
Yeah, but
interesting-
when
the
when he was
interesting-
there,
no.
he was doing nothing.
Cool.
Højlund
He
ain't
scored
a man.
16 goals.
No,
The interesting thing
and that's
for me-
good.
No, for a debut season, for a team that doesn't create a lot of chances,
No.
he had the
No.
least shots in the Premier League as a striker.
but he
Cut him
ain't
some
it.
slack.
He ain't it for
No,
United. I'm sorry.
He's a backup
and
striker.
I want him
what
to
we,
prove
what
me
we
wrong.
needed to buy is now the first team striker. For me, I see him as more.
Oh, okay, wait.
a
Are you
backup.
saying Højlund is a backup striker for who?
No.
I
What he's
think
saying is
we should have signed like an Ivan Toney. I would sign an Ivan
Yeah,
Toney and him.
there I agree.
You know,
There I
so
agree.
that's what we need, but we don't have the funds for that.
We can't even
There
afford
again.
Ivan Toney.
No, he's 40 million. We don't have 40 million. Unless we sell. And the players that we want to sell, like Sancho, Sancho is staying, by the way.
And no one wants him.
So no one wants Sancho.
Okay, so that's the striker. You wanted to say
So
something?
I was
yeah.
saying, look, we've got Joshua Zirkzee, right? Who also is an interesting thing for
He's a
me
number-
because
he's a false
he's a
nine. He's
false
not a
nine. He
number
can
nine.
play on the wing. He's also not a natural goal
False nine,
scorer.
yeah.
He's more of a playmaker type of player. So it's interesting because you've got Højlund, who's the only all-and-out striker, which I feel Højlund will have a better season than last. That's my opinion.
But the
It's
game
his second
model needs
season.
to change.
Yeah, he's not
have to,
demanding.
but it's
But
not our
the
problem
person in the
is
forward
not the
lines.
strikers.
The problem with our forward line, the person that needs to have a big season for me is Marcus Rashford, because he had a phenomenal season 2 years back now, or 2 seasons ago. He has an important part to play, because when I factor out the disastrous season we had last season, it was because of it was like minus 30 goals. So if you take any team and you minus 30 goals,
you're
that this one
finishing.
guy. So if you had him and Casemiro, who had shocking seasons, right? So you not only are you
Plus
leaking
injuries.
goals, you can't score goals. That's a recipe for disaster. If you can't score goals in the Premier League, it's a
we
disaster.
missed out on our wingers and then we close it off. Anthony, terrible. Martial, useless.
gone.
He's
He's
gone.
gone.
Was useless for a very long time, and a bad investment. We didn't get our money's worth there from them. Who's the other winger? We've got Garnacho, who I think is
I think
doing well.
Amad Diallo is gonna have a good season.
Amad
he's gonna have a
Diallo
good
is-
season.
Yeah. I think
I don't think he's gonna.
He
Okay,
needs
how do we
to-
define good season? Because I think with Diallo,
Yeah, I think he's
not
miles
getting us.
better than
than
Anthony.
Anthony.
So
Way
I think
better.
Yeah,
he
but
will
it's not-
give us in the Premier League 10 goals plus assists.
Yeah.
I want to see it,
Which
guys.
is-
like
which is a
honestly,
decent
I think
for me,
he
I
should
think
get- that's
yeah.
his target. I think
I'll
he'll
be
get
fair.
between 10
I
plus
want to
assists.
see it.
assistant goals,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to see it. I think he's a good player, but I don't see him
Yeah, I
as
think he's good.
a guy who we
I
can.
think
He's not a
look at-
sucker. That's
yeah,
what I'm
but
saying.
Also,
Yeah, no, he's
I
not.
He's not a
I
sucker.
think he's a better
He's not
player
a-
than Doku, for example. And Doku does well. So I think he's in between a Saka and
disagree.
a Doku. He's in between.
I
that.
disagree.
No, I would agree
disagree.
with that, because
Yeah.
Doku,
Doku
when you
is
look
not-
at him
he's not
recently,
amazing. He just plays for an amazing
he plays
team.
for an amazing team. He's direct, he can beat a man, right? I don't think Doku, in fact, he's not even a goal scorer, right? His numbers
If
are
not,
not
they're on
as
the
good.
same
So
level.
I would
Nah,
say,
I think he's better than Doku.
And Marcus Rashford at his pomp is
come
better
on.
than Doku by miles.
Yeah, of
that's
course.
that's what I'm saying. Just a good system.
Anyway,
place.
to close it off, thank you, gents. This was beautiful. I think we touched on amazing stuff. Please, guys, don't forget, like, share, comment, subscribe. We're doing a logo. So we're revamping. We want to build an audience. We're moving along with our audience. Please comment the things that you disagree with, the things that you don't disagree with. Just to close it off, what are your hopes and ambitions for the season? Are we making top 4? Are we winning any titles? Briefly, what do you guys see? I'll start off with you, Sihle.
I don't think we're winning titles. I think we can win the Europa League.
Yeah. We're playing Community Shield now, am I correct?
Yeah, I don't see us winning that. But City actually have a bad record in the Community Shield. Liverpool, they've lost the last two. They've lost the Arsenal and the Liverpool one. So I think we might win the Community Shield.
I don't think so.
But I think we'll win. Same FA Cup, we had no chance. So it can happen. But I think in the season, if we sign a midfielder and a centre back like De Ligt, we'll make top 4. I think competition for top 4 is Tottenham and Aston Villa. So if you can't beat those two
which
teams,
is not a big
because I don't think
Klopp is
Chelsea are not going to
anymore.
make top. I think Chelsea will be lucky to make top 8. So I think
It's a big shot.
I'm all. They said Pochettino. I know that's another discussion, but the guy that they've brought in from Leicester is a worse manager.
Okay.
So
we'll discuss current affairs in the
so
next
I think
episode.
if we sign a centre back midfielder, we'll make top 4 and we'll win the Europa League.
Fair enough.
No, for me, you know, if Ten Hag, I question whether Ten Hag is going to be here in 2025. So I'm very fearful for his
But
job.
who you gonna get?
No, that's a different discussion, but I'm fearful
Ruud
for his
van
job
Nistelrooy.
in
Ruud van
Christmas.
Nistelrooy
Conte,
will
if
take
any,
over.
I'm
in the
worried
comment
about it. No,
section,
and I'm serious.
I
Because
just want to cut you short there. In the comment section, I think the man for the job for
He's at
us
Napoli
is
now. You
Conte.
can't take
That's
Conte.
fine. But I said it was Conte. They disagreed with me. And that's another thing we want to unpack. Conte, man for the job. But anyway.
yeah, so look, besides my Ten Hag diversion and my fear for him, because I feel if he's not hitting the ground running, he's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
But I just feel like top 6, we would have done well to be in the top 6. Top 4, it's not possible. I don't think we've got a good squad. We finished 9th last year. I think let's be 8th. Let's be realistic. 8th to top 4, that's a big
But
ask.
you can't go out of the top 4 2 years. in a row.
but the reality is, I'm saying,
And we play
I'm
Europa.
saying, if we can finish in the
at
top
least
6,
if you can win Europa and not make top 4, it's fine.
Wait,
Just
because
hard.
if I win Europa, we win Europa and we finish top 6, that's brilliant.
Will we win Europa? But anyway, to conclude, what's my opinion? I feel same old. We can win Europa. But yeah, I'm uninspired. So I don't have much to say. And I will just be repeating everything that you guys have mentioned. Guys, thank you very much. Any final comments?
Ah,
No,
good.
See you in the next episode. Full-time Reds. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.